Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Kristina von Oertzen. Kristina is a certified nutrition coach on a mission to show food lovers how to indulge without consequences during menopause. She's here to help you tackle the hormonal roller coaster of midlife with confidence and positivity, transforming this chapter into a time of renewal rather than decline. With warmth, wit, and plenty of practical strategies, she shows you how to enjoy that dessert without compromising your figure or ever feeling guilty. Kristina, I am thrilled to have you join me today, so welcome to the show.
Me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, I love what you do. We've talked previous to this before, and what you're doing is really refreshing. I feel especially, it's a topic that I don't often hear a lot of people talking about. I mean, I've got a few contacts, they do, but it's not really as mainstream as I thought it would be. And it's something that we deal with as women as we get older. Even in your 30s, you could start into that premenopausal phase. So again, your work is refreshing, especially the way you bring joy and freedom to midlife eating, because it can feel really super hard. But first, before we get started, I really would love if you could take us back a bit to what led you to become a nutrition coach focused on helping women feel empowered during menopause.
Yeah, so like many of us, it started with my own health issues. So I grew up in a family of food lovers. So my mom is Italian, and we were just always, everything was centered around food. We was always talking about cooking. And then unfortunately, suddenly I developed food intolerances. So first I had a dairy intolerance, and then I suddenly got migraines, and then I had a histamine intolerance on top of that. So it just got progressively worse. And it was basically in our late 30s to early 40s that I felt really bad. Like I looked bad, I felt bad, and almost like every other week a migraine. And on top of that, as probably many women can relate, I just got so worried about my weight. I just thought, okay, so if I'm not traveling with my scales, I might put on weight, and can I eat this and can I eat that? And then you always have to think about calories, or does it cause any problems in upset tummy? Will I be bloated? So food was basically no longer in a positive sense. It was always on my mind, but negatively, really impacting my life. And I then stood, like, there was this one day or this one morning when I just felt really horrible. I had just another migraine, and I just looked in the mirror and I just thought, seriously, is this my life? Yeah. Just constantly worrying about this, still single, and just can't even go on a date because I don't even know what to order, because maybe I just have some whatever, my tummy makes some embarrassing sounds. And Yeah, I thought, something needs to change. And then this is when it turned my life around when I focused on nutrition. And I was no longer focusing on calories and what I can eat, what I can't eat. I was just thinking about how can I fuel my body? So what does my body need? I also didn't realize at that time, but I know now I was entering perimenopause, and probably my hormones started to change. And then what I did is I ate food and I behaved in a way that was balancing and helping to balance my hormones. And that really made a difference. And it didn't take that long. It was just a few weeks, but it felt for me like I was reborn. Seriously, it had such a massive impact on me because my migraines were gone. I can't say my food intolerances were gone, but I knew what to eat and how to not inflame my system in a way so that every little chickpea that I put on top is suddenly having a reaction. So I was much more confident in what I could eat. I knew this is good food for me. I was less worried about weight because I just felt that my strength was coming back. I just looked so much better. I got the color back in my cheeks. And this was the first step. There were many others that followed after that when I just dialed it in more and more. But that was the moment when I just thought, wow, all of this is just food. I turned my life around just by eating the right food. I want to share this with others because, I didn't know this. I was dealing with this for decades. And that was the first seed that was planted. And then I refined it and then eventually started to study nutrition. And yeah, ever since then, I'm showing other women how they can still enjoy food without the consequences that I suffered.
I love that. But what I really love too is how much joy came from that, right? Because you were saying one of the things that we do focus on it, and I think a lot of is because society focuses on what you look like. So as
Mm,
women, we're so hard on ourselves, and especially
I
because
know.
our bodies do change. Our bodies change if we become pregnant, we become moms, and then maybe the body never really goes back to the way it was before. And so we're always beating ourselves up, and a lot of that comes from the pressures of like what everyone else says you're supposed to look like, what society
Yeah.
deems as beautiful. But I love the fact that it became less about how much weight you were losing, but how much better you were feeling. And you could notice that. And it brought you a lot of joy. You said you looked better. And it wasn't about like, oh, I lost all this weight and I looked better. It was just like I was eating better. It made me feel better and I looked better. And that was the key. I think that's what really, for me, stood out with what you said, because we can be so hard on ourselves, which is really one of the things I want to like lean into the next question, which is around something that many women are frustrated by, and it's the stubborn weight gain around the middle, like our midsection, right? And that
Yeah.
comes from menopause. I've gone through menopause, so I'm in the postmenopausal stages of my life. So what are the biggest misconceptions about the meno-belly and what's really going on hormonally?
Yeah, the meno-belly. That's that's really like the biggest problem. This is what everyone is complaining about. Yeah. There's several things that are happening. One thing is just simply it's our skin and that we are aging. And then, of course, everything is just has the tendency to sag a little bit. So, and a really easy fix is just to work on your posture and just make sure that you're standing up proud. And then already some of the bra bulge is already going away and your belly looks a little bit flatter. But what's really happening is that your hormones change. So your estrogen drops and then your body is looking for some replacement source and it finds it in active fat. And that's the kind of fat that you built around your belly. And it's unfortunately sitting between your organs. So that's this visceral fat. And it's a dangerous type of fat, but it's hormonally active. And it produces some kind of an estrogen, which is not the really good one that we got from our ovaries, but it's still something. So this is why we then tend to accumulate this around the belly. And this is fueled by two other things. A, that we're losing our muscle. So without working against it by doing strength training, we're just gradually reducing our muscle mass. And then the other thing is stress. So if you are living this high-paced, busy life that all of us live, your stress levels are quite high, and this is then also leading to accumulation of fat around the belly. So the main topics are hormonal changes, stress hormones, and muscle loss. So
Yeah.
those three are the key indicators.
Yeah. And one of the things I noticed just about myself is that I used to be, I guess I could consider myself a gym rat. Used to be in the gym 5 days a week. And, I learned to train because I worked out usually with men in the gym. I'd befriend like the guys who were there working out seriously. And I started working out with this one crew. I remember when I was living in South Florida, and we would meet Monday through Friday. There were about 6 of us, and we'd just go hardcore working out. This was just the thing that we did, and it felt so good. But as I got older and when we started traveling a little bit more, I just found that going to the gym became less, I don't know, of a draw, because maybe it was because I didn't really have the incentive to go, like I was meeting other people. And then I think the second part too is like I kind of felt almost like I would go in and feel like there was a lack of motivation.
Mm.
And then, of course, the last few years of traveling the way we have been traveling, now it's more about I'm walking more, but I'm not necessarily doing the weight training, which is something that my husband and I have really been talking a lot about. He goes to the gym here, and this is just something I need to also incorporate some form of muscle training in my daily regimen because as I am getting older too. But yeah, I love how you brought that in because our hormones change. We start to lose that muscle. And then, of course, the stress of life contributes. And I think part of that stress too could be just of how we're not liking how we look. And that kind of stresses us out too, right?
Yeah, that of
So,
course. I mean, wherever the stress comes from, for some, that might be one of the stress factors. But I really love this that you had this little community with your guy friends and you were working out together. And it's true. If you find the community and you can work out with people, that's definitely helping. But then, of course, if you're traveling a lot and then it's just you can no longer organize it and then you lack the motivation. But it's so easy to then think about ways how you can still continue your exercise without having access to a gym and while you're traveling, which I experienced a lot because we were just moving continents. So we were just first moving from the UK to Australia and then from Australia back to Europe. And then we were just traveling a lot during this time. And I just thought, okay, so I definitely do not want to give this up because this is one of the secret weapons I discovered. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, which means the more you can eat. So this made so perfect sense for me. So I just invest that little bit of time. And then further down the line, I know, okay, I can have that dessert because I have the muscle that is burning it. So for me, this has really taken priority. And it's maybe mainly for vanity. But if we just think about what muscle is also good for, it's just generally it's anti-aging. It's really what keeps us in tip-top shape until old age. It keeps our bones healthy. It's just such a important resource that we have in our bodies. That is really something. So if there's one thing you take away from today's conversation is really work on your muscle. Don't lose it and try to build it up. That will just guarantee you good aging and a long and healthy lifespan.
yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. Well, you teach something called the Worth It Method, which I love. So, can you walk
Mhm.
us through what that means and how it helps women enjoy food without falling into guilt or restriction? And I also believe you have a guide that shows them how to do this, correct?
Yes, I do. So I have a little freebie that you can download. It's a free guide that is talking you through this method. What it basically is like it's a flexible eating framework that is balancing nourishing meals with intentional indulgences. So it's not just like grabbing a brownie here and a muffin here and just eating mindlessly. It's really thinking about, so what am I eating most of the time? So how can I make this as nourishing as possible? Really thinking about food is fuel for everything in my body, for my brain, for my muscles, for everything, but make this really delicious. And then you just throw in some worth it treats. So that's something where you just think, okay, is that for me? It's like chocolate brownies, maybe with salted caramel on top. So if I'm thinking about this, is it worth it? I am absolutely, yes, this is worth it. So I want to have this. I'm eating this. I'm not feeling guilty because I know I wrap this with strength training and with all this nourishing food that I eat most of the time. So that's in a nutshell, basically the worth it method. I have a lot of information on that in the guide, and I also have some mix and match recipes so that you can just put together those nourishing meals that I mentioned and how you can make them flavorsome. Because this is the thing: if we eat food that is boring and diet food, we're just not eating it. So, and we're not satisfied. And this is then when you just think about, so what else could I eat? So we just want to make sure we're eating something that brings us joy, like not just the worth it treat. Everything we eat should be something that satisfies us. So where you're happy when you're getting up after a meal.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. You want to be able to enjoy what you're eating without that guilt or shame that
And
comes
that.
with eating something that you think, oh, I shouldn't have that, right? But instead, you want when you take care of you, then you're able to have these things. I don't believe, and I've heard other people, even men included, there's one trainer, he says it's not about eliminating everything entirely from your life. It's just how
Mm,
you bring it into your life. And I love the fact that because, you are a woman, you understand a woman's body because you are a woman, you've gone through these things, you're able to then say, well, this is what I've experienced and I can help you through this because it's a real lived experience, understanding what women go through because our bodies change.
mm,
And it can be really super scary when you start looking at your middle starting to grow and you're like, well, I'm not eating any differently, but it does come down to having to become mindful of what we're
mm,
eating. So I love that. I know that as women, we can be really high achievers. And the reason why I say that is because women wear a ton of hats, whether it's a daughter, whether it's sister, whether it's a mom or a grandmom, whether it's a wife, caregiver, all of those things. I know that our energy is really important and it can start to feel like our energy is starting to go, and especially as we get older. And I believe too, one of the things, because of all the hats I mentioned, is that it's because of how fast paced the world we're living in is.
mm.
And not only just with our professional lives, but again, the responsibilities, as I mentioned, in our personal lives. So, how much of that, meaning our energy, can be supported through food? And what shifts have the biggest impact on energy, mood, and clarity?
So it's actually a lot that comes through food. And it's really interesting to see when I start working with my clients, I always put them through a nutritional cleanse, which is basically not a cleanse where I'm taking food away, but where I'm just giving them more food than they're currently eating. So much more variety. And most importantly, a lot more vegetables, because the vegetables are providing your body with fiber, which is really important as you go through your menopausal years. And then you get a lot of vitamins and minerals from the vegetables. The more colorful they are, the better it is for you. And this just gives you so much energy. And it's really interesting to see that, because at the beginning, so then it's all the usual questions. So what is this and what is that? And I've never heard of this. And can I use that one instead? And then they eat whatever a week. And then suddenly they feel this like surge of energy. And it's just so fascinating to always watch that, because I have this energy on a daily basis because this is just how I eat. This is my second nature. But if you're not used to that and to that variety, it can really come as a surprise that you have suddenly all that energy that you didn't even know you could feel that way. And it's certainly coming from food, because you stabilize your blood sugar, which is really important so that you're not going on this blood sugar high after something high sugar and your insulin spikes and then you just drop and this just makes you hyper and then you go back to lethargic. You're just much more stable if you focus on this kind of food intake.
Yeah. And I guess there's habits too, right? That we have that, or maybe even certain foods that now have to change in our lifestyle to either let go of entirely or, like you were saying, bringing more of that in. And so I really love how you were talking about that, because sometimes we get, again, like this fast paced environment we're living in now.
Mm,
It's easy to grab for the quick fix, the fast food, the fast option, not always the healthiest option, but sometimes the fast option. And I think
Yeah.
that's partly too, it comes down to the intent behind like, what do we really want? We still have to take action to make those changes. And so maybe that is prepping some healthy snacks on Sunday for your week. Even if it's just the healthy snacks, you don't have to meal prep for the week, but even if it's just the healthy snacks so that you have that quick fix, but it's better for you to reach for. I mean, that's kind
Mm.
of like what I've been thinking a lot more about, living here in Mexico. My husband's saying, well, I say to him, I would, because he does most of the shopping, I would like more snacks in the house that are things that I can reach for that are not going to be bad for me. And when I say bad for me, I mean that are going to be nutritious, that are going to be energizing. And I don't want to have like potato chips or cookies
Mm.
or things like that. I want something, and it's not that I can't have those things, but I want something that is going to fuel me through my day. So I love that you talked about that.
I think it's a lot about some planning, and I love it that you start thinking about this, because if the worst that can happen is that you're hungry. And when you're hungry, you don't have anything there for you, and of course you grab the first thing. And if it's a bag of crisps, of course we love it, yeah, because it has a nice crunch. It's made to be palatable and to be more. So I think the most important thing is just really thinking about, okay, what do I like, and how can I have more of that in my house? So if you stock your fridge with, like, if you think of vegetables, okay, what are the vegetables I like? Just put all of that in there, maybe some fruit and berries, so that I have good food in the house. But also think about when you're leaving the house. So like, typical situation is just that you're coming home from work, if you're commuting to work, and you're sitting in the car and it's whatever after 6 and you're just absolutely starving. And then you either have some snacks that are maybe from your kids that are lying in the car, or you go to a service station and there's just nothing. I mean, seriously, if you go to your average service station is about 95% is absolute total rubbish and it's not really food. So for situations like this, that you have something, so like a really good snack is, for example, having some nuts. Even if they're roasted, they're better than having some bar. I would stay away from protein bars. What I tell my clients is sometimes if they know, for example, they're coming home late, to have just some dry protein powder in the car that they can fill up with water, and then have a protein shake, which is so much better than having a protein bar, because the protein shake we know is mainly protein, whereas a bar is usually just carbs and sugar. So just really think about these situations and be prepared. The ideal scenario is that you get through the day. I know it's very ambitious, without snacks, so that you don't need snacks. So really think about, okay, so if I'm hungry, like whatever, 2 hours after breakfast, how can I improve my breakfast? How can I add more healthy fats and more protein to my breakfast so that it lasts until lunch? So that's usually, that's relatively easy to achieve. Then you have a really good lunch. And then if you then see, okay, I need about 5 snacks to get through to dinner, increase or change what you eat for lunch so that you last longer. And if it's whatever, half an hour before your dinner time, then maybe pull dinner a little bit earlier and just have it earlier. So just really think about that. Could you potentially get through the day without the snacks? If you can't, make sure that your snack is not a carb-based snack, so that it's always start with either fat or with protein. And then carbs are so easy. And then, so the main portion should be, I think the main portion should be protein. So this is why nuts are great, and healthy fats and a little bit of protein, or protein shake. Or if you want to have something with carbs, you have an apple and you put some nut butter on top. Or you have some, what I really like is, I think but never really know. I call them cornichons, but then someone told me it's pickled cucumbers. Maybe you have pickled cucumbers and a little bit of cheese, these kind of snacks. So just always think about, how can I avoid that it's just sugar.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much. And I want to actually now shift into mindset, because I know mindset can be a really big thing, especially it's that self-worth piece, your body's changing. And so we know that menopause doesn't just affect our bodies. It actually affects how we feel about ourselves. So how do you help your clients reconnect with their worth and confidence during this phase of their life?
That they just really make it about themselves, and so this is just something that us women, we are just always there for everyone else. Everyone is just always looking at us to organize things or to solve and fix things. And then we are just like an afterthought. So I really empower women that I'm working with, that they make themselves a priority, because if they function well, everyone around them will just have such a better life. And because you have the strength then to get through the tough day, and most of us have like really busy days. So I think menopause, or those menopausal years, it's a perfect opportunity to start thinking about, okay, so what can I do to make myself a priority? How can I sprinkle little islands of joy, I call them, into my day where it's just about me? Maybe I have my nails done, or I do a meditation somewhere where no one is disturbing me. Maybe I just go for a walk somewhere by myself, with no one there, just so that it can be just me and about me. And this doesn't have to be long. So it can be sometimes, if you know you have 5 minutes undisturbed, that can be like a luxury, because we are just I don't know what it is about a woman. If I read a book, everyone around me is still talking to me. Or if I'm watching a video, if someone else watches the video and I see them, I wait until the video is over and then I start talking to them. And I think this is very common, that it's just whatever we do, it just seems to not be so important. So educate the people around you that if mom, or if your wife is reading a book, she's reading a book, she doesn't want to be disturbed. That's her time. And if you can't get it in the house, then just leave the house. So yeah, it's a fun part of working with women, because you can then start thinking about, so what do you really enjoy? How can you incorporate that into your day?
I love that. Thank you so much for that. So I know what you teach obviously isn't about perfection or clean eating 100% of the time. So helping women shift from food rules into a more aligned, intuitive approach without losing progress and structure is important. So can you share? I wanted to know how that looks like to work with you for our audience in case someone is looking for someone like you. Can you share a real life, real client win that reflects the philosophy behind what you teach?
So if I'm working with someone one-on-one, I'm really meeting them where they are. So that was one of my earlier clients, and I think that was like the worst starting point you can think of. She had 4 children. She was working part-time, and 3 of the children had autism. So, and they were all, I think 3 under 10 and 1 12 or 13 years old. So really full-on mom job. She was also looking after the house, and she had this part-time job. And so we would just, if I now go to her and say, well, okay, so you need to make sure you have your 3 sessions of weight training per week, and then you need to prepare the food on these other days, it was just impossible because she didn't have the time. So we were thinking outside the box. And in her case, it was that we used her being active in the house, like, for example, cleaning the house, and those little mini breaks that she had between all of these commitments that she had during the day, to use those to do her workout. So it wasn't a 30-minute block. We split that into like 5 to 10-minute blocks that she could easily incorporate. So sometimes, do not underestimate doing housework. This can be a workout. But we then also incorporated just doing a set of squats just for 5 minutes, and just incorporate this into your day. The other thing we did is she started going to bed earlier, but basically just after her kids, so that she could wake up earlier. And then she had this 1 hour at the beginning of the day before everyone else was up. And that was her golden hour where she had all the time to do stuff that was just about her. I'm usually advising against forcing yourself to get up earlier just so that you can work out. But in her case, it was clear that she was tired. And then she just pushed herself, like many of us do in the evening. We just, we watch TV and just do something that doesn't really give us anything. But we go to bed late. So it was clear that she was tired. And then so we just said, okay, so if you're tired, your kids are already in bed, why don't you also go to bed? Yeah. And then she naturally woke up earlier, and then she had this extra hour. So that was a great success. And she lost the weight that she wanted to lose. It was only a few kilos, but it brought back her energy. It just gave her a more structured day. And she was very satisfied with the way she felt in her body, which was the main point why she came to me. So that's one example, but that's very specific for one-on-one coaching that I just tailored around you. So I'm not pressing you into some framework that I have and it must fit. And then we do this like a little bit more simplified version in my group program. So I have one for weight loss, which gives you all the steps. And then we meet on a weekly basis in Bloom Club, and you can discuss your questions. And I always have a million tips what you can do. So we discuss snacks a lot. Yeah. So not just the snacks that you eat, but then also the exercise snacks. So how can you, basically, these are the big topics. What can I eat? Yeah. How can I make my food work for me? And how can I exercise without feeling stressed about it?
Yeah. One of the things that I really loved what you said was that we always feel, and I think this is why there's so much shame around, like, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, is because we feel like there is a framework. And I love that you work with your clients to meet them where they're at in their situation. Like, this woman has a lot of responsibility. And so helping her to see what she already has within her control to, like, again, going to bed when the kids are in bed so that you get that full rest that you're looking for, so that allowed her to get up that extra hour earlier just for her, finding those pockets of time where she does
Mm,
have available during the day. Self-care doesn't have to look like this, you know, people talk about having 7 things to do in the morning. It's like not
I
everybody
know.
has that time. Not everybody has the availability to do those things. You know, some people have grown kids and of course then they can. Some people have their caregivers and they just don't. Some people have young kids and some people just don't want to have that many things. I think it just has to match what you like, because the only way it's going to become habit is it's something that you genuinely are willing to put in some time so that it becomes a habit
Mm,
and that you enjoy it. Because if you don't, it's just, you're not going to feel like doing it and you'll find yourself skipping it. So again,
mm.
self-care doesn't have to look the same as anyone else's. It's what fits your lifestyle. So I love that you talked about that.
Yeah, it's so important. It's always like, if you think about something, if you force yourself to do something, always ask yourself, so would I do this in 10 years, still do this in 10 years times? And if you then think, probably not, because I'm just doing this now because I want to reach that goal, then it's not sustainable. So whatever we come up with needs to be something that you know you can do this for life. This is why I'm not talking about a diet. It's basically, it's a lifestyle change around your way of living your life, however that may be. And only if it fits around you, it will be long-term, it will be a long-term success, because otherwise there will always ever be a period when you do something that someone else tells you to do. So that's really important. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, final question. So many women approach menopause as something to just get through. I'm doing air
Yeah.
quotes, but you see it as a time that you yourself you're looking at it from a different perspective as a time of renewal. So what would you say to the woman who's listening today, who's ready to feel empowered again, because maybe she's lost that spark, but she doesn't know where to start?
So really just sit down and think about, okay, so where am I in my life? Where do I want to get to? And use this as your opportunity to slow down a little bit, take stock, and just really think about, okay, am I living the life that I want to live? Because I think this is the perfect opportunity, like usually halfway around through our lives when we go through menopause, to just think about, okay, so how can I change this? Either stay or continue to live like I'm living now, or use this opportunity that, for example, maybe my kids are going out of the house and I finally can be myself again, or whatever other changes you have in your life, as an opportunity to focus on myself, as we discussed earlier, and to see how can I make life fun and enjoyable. So this is what I mean with this renewal, so that you just really, it's almost like inventing yourself again and allowing yourself to bloom and to be the most important person for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're also showing other people, you're modeling to the world around you what that looks like. And that could actually have a positive ripple effect, whether it's on your kids, on your spouse, whether it's on your friends. You know, you just don't know when you start showing up as that better version of yourself because you take
Mm.
care of you and realize how important you are. So, Kristina, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your perspective on what it really means to enjoy food, feel good in your body, and navigate midlife with confidence. I've loved hearing how you're helping your clients ditch the all or nothing mindset and step into a more empowered relationship with food, one that's rooted in pleasure, balance, and practical strategy. Your approach is refreshing. I love it. And I know it's going to resonate with so many women who are ready to feel at home in their bodies again. So thank you again for being here with me and for the work that you're doing.
Thanks for the invite. It was really fun to talk with you.
And to our listeners, if you'd like to connect with Kristina directly, and if you're interested in her free Love What You Eat guide, which includes her Worth It method, recipe ideas, and a checklist for tackling that meno-belly, you can find everything in the show notes. Remember, making peace with food and feeling your best doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes the most powerful change starts with something simple. So give yourself permission to enjoy the process, trust your body, and let feeling good be the new standard. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.